Welcome to the Young Turks, and welcome to Dropping It. I know what America's thinking. Cenk, we've already seen your European soccer star style haircut. Now we're interested in the shirt you're wearing. Sure, fine, I'll show it to you. Oh, no. It's the We Press On shirt. So if you give at tyt.com/go for our audience fundraising, there's a shirt you get at $127. Burly chest, not included.
Did you? Oh my God! Jesus Christ! Did you donate to the fundraiser? Why do you get a shirt?
Hey, be cool. No. I also have the hoodie too. I look. I'm the only person in America that has too much TYT gear.
Agreed.
But no, I'm not on the donor wall, to be honest. But good point, good catch. But fine, we'll send you one if you're one in on the corruption. Okay. tyt.com/go. In fact, let's check the fundraising numbers right now as we are trying to keep TYT sustainable. Oh, look at this, 95,663. Guys, now I know it's a stretch and I know it's a Friday, but it feels like 100 is doable. It feels that way. And so super important to keep independent media viable and strong through these tough times. Obviously, do not give if you can't afford it, and if you take care of yourself and your family first. But if you can, that would be amazing, and it is much needed. All right, Anna, let's show them what independent media is all about. Let's do the news.
All right. Actually, we start off with some great news. To be honest, news that I did not expect. Gregory and Travis McMichael, the two Georgia men who chased down and fatally shot 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery while he was jogging, have been arrested, and they're facing serious charges, assault and, more importantly, murder, aggravated assault and murder. Now, notably, the two have not been charged with a hate crime, but there is a reason for that. Georgia is one of 4 states that does not have a hate crime law. Back in 2000, the lawmakers in Georgia did manage to pass a hate crime law, but they didn't specify what fell under hate crimes, and their Supreme Court decided to rule it unconstitutional because of how vague it was. However, they have been arrested. They are facing serious charges. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation announced the arrest the day after it began its own investigation at the request of an outside prosecutor. Now, there was a lot of concern because the independent prosecutor who was pursuing this case noted that this case would go before a grand jury, but because of COVID-19, grand jury proceedings are not taking place. They're not going to take place until mid-June. So luckily, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations did get involved, and they've decided to arrest the two. Now, the shooting death of Arbery, 25, has been passed through 3 district attorneys in the 2.5 months since the man had been shot and killed while jogging through a Glenn County neighborhood the afternoon of February 23rd. So it took a long time to get any justice at all, and luckily it appears that there is going to be some justice in this case. Now, the Georgia Attorney General's office says, we're grateful the Georgia Bureau of Investigations has taken quick and decisive action. This tragedy cannot be undone, but this is the first step in what I am confident will be a swift road to justice.
So there's actually a little bit more good news about how the cops handled it, which is also a little surprising given what we originally heard. But latest report out is that the police that actually looked at this originally wanted these 2 suspects arrested. And it was actually the Brunswick district attorney who said no. Now, he was an investigator for the Brunswick district attorney. So she has since then recused herself, as well as another prosecutor. We're on to the 3rd prosecutor here, finally doing the right thing. But maybe you should have recused yourself before you told the cops not to arrest them. And so So we always want to be fair on this show. So give credit to the police officers there that apparently wanted to do the right thing from the get-go. So that's
Right.
important to know.
Exactly. So Gregory McMichael, who was it was a father-son duo who carried this out. By the way, there's a third individual who was filming the video. His name is William Bryan. He's also being investigated. However, he has not been arrested or charged with anything yet. But the father-son duo, who you see in the video, the father actually retired from the police department just last year. So there was clearly a giant conflict of interest there, which is why Jackie Johnson, the district attorney, decided to recuse herself. But I will say this, and you're right, Cenk, it's one thing to recuse yourself after the fact, like after you've gotten caught, and like, it's a completely different thing to just like brush this case under the rug, which is what it appears happened, because it took a long time for anything to happen, any type of justice or action toward these two. It's just crazy. And go ahead.
Yeah, and guys, understand that if the video had not become public, there might never have been any action or justice on this. Now, let's be fair in the other direction too. And so the facts are that the police and the prosecutors had this video the whole time. It's only after it became public and there was a world of pressure put on that they go, oh, yeah, I guess we meant to arrest them, right? Like I said earlier, apparently the cops wanted to arrest them from the get-go. It was the prosecutors that had resisted. And so now, by the way, as usual, credit in this case to Sean King, who did a great job of tracking down the third person, who brought a ton of attention to it. The family's attorney is thanking Sean King. So wonderful work by him, as always. And then finally, there's two parts of stories like this. The original crime and then what authorities do about it. The original crime in this case was really horrific because he appears to be jogging. They chase him down. And then they shoot him down, and it's just horrible. And that's grave injustice, and a lot of people have compared it to a lynching. But usually, and in this case as well, when the authorities don't do the right thing, that is the bigger injustice, because their crime happens all across the country and across the world. The question is, do you get justice for it or do you not, right? There are terrible people all across the country. We understand that, Nate. Not all of them can be stopped ahead of time, but the government's job is to bring us justice, all of its citizens justice. And that is what we did not have in this case. But the good news today is at least that process of justice has now finally begun. And yes, because of public pressure. See, the media and other folks that put on public pressure can and oftentimes do make a gigantic difference.
Absolutely. So, Brett, I actually want to skip ahead to the second video in this story, because I think that it is also telling of what Arbery's family was told after he was killed in cold blood in broad daylight. Honestly, the defendants in this case now had alleged was that Arbery was a suspected burglar, and that's the reason why he was pursued. And then it turns out that Arbery's family was told that the context in which he was shot and killed was completely different than what we saw on that video. So let's go to that conversation that took place on Cuomo's show just last night.
This first happened, and the explanation was, well, he was fleeing the scene of a crime. Did the police come to your parents and say, well, you know, he was leaving the scene of a crime, and that's what this was about? Did the police say that to your parents? Do you know?
I do know that they said that it was a burglary.
What would be their basis, other than what they were told by these two guys who are now arrested for connecting the deceased to any crime?
That's right. And from what Ms. Cooper told me, Jasmine's mom and Ahmad's mom, law enforcement told her not only was her son involved in a burglary, but it was that during the course of the burglary that he was shot to death by the homeowner.
And they didn't provide any basis for that. And in follow-up investigation, is there anything to that suggestion as far as you've been told?
The closest thing to that suggestion is Ahmad running down the street and stopping by a property that was under construction that many people in that neighborhood stopped by because it was a peculiarity in that neighborhood.
I mean, to go and tell the family members that he was shot in the process of burglarizing someone's home, it's just, it adds insult to injury. But I mean, I'm obviously like saying that is downplaying it. It's just so unbelievably gross and disgusting. He was the victim here. He was not committing any type of crime. He was jogging and he was shot and killed in broad daylight by two people who decided to pursue him for absolutely no reason. They claimed that they thought he was a burglary suspect, but I mean, was there any evidence of that? And if you think that someone is a burglary suspect, you're not allowed to just carry out vigilante justice like that and kill someone. I mean, you have to experience that. There is a law in Georgia, right? It's a citizen's arrest law that indicates that if you see someone with your own two eyes committing a crime, well, then you can get involved and pursue a citizen's arrest. That is not what happened here at all.
Yeah, no, it's a very dangerous idea because, look, everyone is armed in America, period, let alone in Georgia. So if you take that to its extreme, I think there was a crime. I'm going to go get my shotgun. And what if that guy is armed? And next thing you know, we're having shootouts all over the place with so-called citizens' arrests. So in this case, this is exactly what people talk about when they say that driving while black, barbecuing while black. There was a story where a kid was questioned for mowing a lawn. Who mows someone else's lawn as a part of a crime? And in this case, jogging while black, because how many white folks or non-black folks have jogged by, if this part of the story is true, jogged by an abandoned property and looked at it? Millions of people? I know I've done that. I've done that a bunch of times, right?
Same, definitely.
And so I'm brown, but I'm not black. And so in that case, good neighborhood, bad neighborhood, doesn't really matter. Okay. The skin color is what apparently mattered. Because if a white guy had done that, there's no way in the world they chase him down with a shotgun and then shoot him. It's inconceivable. And so so this is what African Americans in this country have to deal with all the time. When they ask for a little bit of empathy, oftentimes not only do they not get it, but they get, in the case of Colin Kaepernick, you get banned from your own profession. It costs you millions upon millions of dollars. The guy politely took a knee saying, "Can you please stop shooting us?" And there was rage against him, rage. And if you can't see that black folks in this country are still treated differently, you're trying super hard not to see it.
I'm going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we have some giant updates to the Tara Reade story. We'll give you her interview with Megyn Kelly, along with some new court documentation that corroborates her story. And later in the show, we'll discuss the new unemployment numbers and how rushed Donald Trump feels to get people back to work, even though it's unsafe. We'll be right back.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of On the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be. Featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity, the UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, "You must unlearn what you have learned." And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Lots to get to. First, I wanted to let you guys know about a couple of programming notes. So next week, we got Sean King on the show. We mentioned him earlier. Some of you mentioned him in the comments. We got Josh Fox on the show. In fact, Josh Fox's show itself is going to start next week. So that's Stay at Home with Josh, and that starts at 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern. The interview with Josh is at 2:30. So starting on Monday, our programming starts at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. May shows at 6 o'clock. And so everybody check that out. And on Tuesday night, we are going to have special coverage of the Nebraska primary. The reason why that's super important is Cara Eastman is probably the progressive with the best chance of winning. And she's a just Democrat. That's Tuesday night. Don't miss that. Now let me read some of your comments. Anna's Margarita Salt writes in, Cenk, you look more like a European rugby star. Just saying, LOL. Rugby as opposed to soccer? Well, that is accurate. I actually did play rugby. I also played soccer, but until my coach said you should be playing football instead. Now, Chance has a good question. The U.S. economy shed more than 20.5 million jobs in April. We're going to talk about that in a second. Unemployment is 14.7%, worse since the Great Depression. How is the stock market still rising? Pitchforks are a-coming. Well, the reason the stock market is still rising is because they're covered. They got giant amount of loans, grants, money from the Federal Reserve. Money has been printed and shipped to them. So as you guys are suffering, they're fine. Cheryl Josie says, Sean King, awesome TYT Army crusading for justice. Couldn't agree more. He's fantastic. Was a longtime contributor to us as well. There's so many other things to read here, but Nicole Schmidt says, without you and other progressive media, so many important stories would not be told. Thank you, Nicole, using YouTube Super Chat there. And last one, just for fun, Carl Jones, also using YouTube Super Chat, says, I want to thank you guys for an amazing hoodie. Got my wife it for her anniversary. She loved the pocket in a pocket, but freaked out about the thumb holes. Could she get a shout out? She can. Her name is Marissa. Thank you, Marissa. We appreciate it. And thank you, Carl. So shoptyt.com has all of our hoodies, and they're all awesome. Shoptyt.com. But if you want to get the We Press On shirt, the one I'm wearing now with this really cool mic in the middle, God, I love that mic. That's for anyone who gives $127 at tyt.com/go. And the hoodie version of this is for anyone who gives $1,000 or more at tyt.com/go. In fact, let's check in on that real quick. We're trying to get to 100,000 by today. 96,222. Pretty good. Pretty good. All right, Anna, take it away.
All right. We have some important updates on the Tara Reade accusations against Joe Biden. So new court documents indicate that there is more corroborating evidence for portions of Tara Reade's accusations against Joe Biden, namely the accusations of sexual harassment. So these are court documents that were filed by Tara Reade's ex-husband back in 1996, and they were uncovered by the San Luis Obispo Tribune. She had lived there, so it makes sense that the documents would be in that area. So in the filing dated March 25th, 1996, Reade's ex-husband, Theodore Dronin, testified that he met Reade in the spring of 1993 while the two worked for separate members of Congress in Washington, D.C. Now, he wrote that Reade told him she, quote, eventually struck a deal with the chief of staff of the senator's office and left her position. So in it, he specifically mentions the sexual harassment she experienced while working for Biden. It does not mention sexual assault. But I want to just quickly pause for a second and note that one of the defenses that we're now seeing from Biden supporters is that, yeah, like this court document exists, but it doesn't say that Joe Biden's the one who did the sexual harassment. But Tara Reade's the one who says that he did the sexual harassment, and there's documentation that was filed by her ex-husband back in 1996 indicating that she experienced sexual harassment while working for Joe Biden. Now, let me give you more from the court filing that her ex-husband had written. It was obvious that this event had a very traumatic effect on Reade and that she still is sensitive and affected by it today. Now, again, it did not mention sexual assault, but it did mention the sexual harassment. Now, Ted Kaufman, who was Biden's chief of staff at the time, responded to these new revelations. He continues to deny that this was ever her experience, or at least that it was ever brought to his attention. He says, quote, "I have consistently said what is the truth here, that she never came to me. I do not remember her. And had she come to me in any of these circumstances, I would remember her, but I do not because she did not." So again, that was Ted Kaufman's statement, former chief of staff for Biden. So go ahead, Cenk. What do you make of all this?
All right. Just first, a small side note. For whatever it's worth, Ted Kaufman is actually a pretty good progressive. He later wound up becoming a senator replacing Biden and was very, very tough on the banks. That doesn't mean he's right about this at all. It just giving you context as to who he is. Okay, so now in regards to Tara Reid and the reaction that she has gotten over all this time, now it is indisputable that Tara Reid told many people about, at a minimum, sexual harassment that she endured in the Biden Senate office, at a bare minimum. So it appears, based on what her mom said on CNN, based on corroborating witnesses, including friends and family members at the time, that she said it was Joe Biden himself. Now, there are some things that she said later that makes you question that. And her explanation for that is, look, I just basically never got comfortable accusing Biden publicly. And so, but privately, she told all those people it was Biden. Now, it is still unclear if it was just sexual harassment or if it includes the new things she's talking about, which is sexual assault. Now, given that sexual harassment, you can't say for sure that it happened. What we do know is that when we're looking into cases like this, the previous standard was, did she tell people at the time? And that makes her far more believable. She absolutely, positively did. Now there's even documentation of it. So
no, there's Cenk, there is
hold on, Anna.
So much evidence here. Like, it's insane. Like, it's insane how differently she's being treated from, Blasey Ford, for instance, who I also believed. Like, it's just incredible how they're being treated completely differently by the Democratic Party. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to ask the people who attacked her, whether you're establishment Democrat, establishment media, whatever you are, is there any amount of facts that will move your opinion? Or are you like the Trump people? Like, facts are totally irrelevant. You said that she didn't have corroborating witnesses. She now does. It's overwhelmingly clear. And she has a lot of them, way more than the average accuser. We've covered a lot of these cases. She told friend after friend. She told the mom. She told the brother. The mom called in on CNN back in 93. Now the husband's documentation in 96. It is overwhelming. It doesn't mean that her exact account is correct. But can you at least acknowledge that you were wrong to say that she made everything up? And an apology would be amazing, would be great. In a lot of ways, it's actually the bare minimum. But is a single person in the establishment going to do that? I'm not sure it's happened yet. So if they don't, and they say, nope, well, okay, then you have your answer. It's absolutely Trumpian. They have an alternative facts, an alternative reality, and they just don't give a damn what reality is. Us, on the other hand, we're not making any conclusions. We're just telling you what the facts are. It's clear that she thought that there was, at a minimum, sexual harassment at the time. Did the exact sexual assault happen? I have no idea.
Yeah, look, all I can say is I believe her. And I believe her because more and more of this evidence just keeps coming up. And I believe that it's important to be consistent and not allow your own political preferences bias you in one way or the other. So for me, the Dr. Ford, attempted rape allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. That story, I mean, you remember, Cenk, that was one of the hardest stories that we had to talk about, that I had to talk about. It was hard to keep it together, especially after the FBI conducted a shallow sham investigation in order to pave the way for Brett Kavanaugh to get confirmed by the Senate. That was difficult to stomach. What's even more difficult to stomach is that the very people who, put themselves on a pedestal when it comes to morality and defending the rights of women tend to be the same people who will then turn around and think about their own political agenda when it comes to trashing someone like Tara Reade. Just be honest, right? Like, I think the heart of this issue, and I'm specifically talking about the reaction from the Biden defenders, is that they have weaponized the Me Too movement for political gain, right? They used it as a tool against you. I don't want to adjudicate that again or get into that again, but they did. And by admitting that they have weaponized it against their political rivals, they can't do it again in the future. It won't be as effective, right? And that's all they've got, because they latch on to accusing people of all sorts of things, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's racism, bigotry, whatever, because that's a great thing to focus on when you don't want to focus on, let's say, how you've been in cahoots with the Republican Party on how our economy is going for the vast majority of Americans. You don't want to talk about that. You can't differentiate yourself from Republicans on that. The only thing you can latch onto is we're better when it comes to cultural issues. We're better when it comes to protecting disenfranchised groups of people or people who have historically been discriminated against in this country. But the fact of the matter is they're not. Some people who are principled have been, and I commend them for that. But what we're seeing from the Matthew Iglesiases of the world, I mean, complete and utter horse crap. Okay, it's disgusting. And at least, in the very least, just be honest. Be honest and say that you don't care what happened between Tara Reade and Joe Biden. Just say that to you, getting Joe Biden in office is more important than anything else, including protecting women who might have been victimized by him in the past. Just be honest. And there have been some Democrats who have said that.
Look, getting Trump out of office is monumentally important. It could have been any candidate. It just... but now they've made their political bed, and they're going to lie in it. And they're now they feel like their reputation's on the line, and they continue to have this wall where they pretend either, oh, well, I was neutral all along. Yeah. Spare me. Total nonsense. And look, animated illusion to me. I want to be perfectly clear. I've never been accused of anything in the Me Too movement. And that's what makes this even more comical. They said, oh, Cenk, you said some wrong things 19, 20, 21 years ago. And hence, a presidential candidate should not have anything to do with you. And some of your comments are, were jokes made 7 years ago. A joke. And you should be eliminated. And Bernie Sanders should be eliminated for ever liking you. But now we have massive sexual assault and clear sexual harassment charges against their candidate. And all of a sudden, no, it isn't Me Too, nothing. Actions, who cares? Sexual harassment, who cares? Sexual assault, who cares? But wait a minute. Did anyone that Biden know make a joke 20 years ago? Because then we would care. No, your hypocrisy is super duper obvious. The only people who refuse to acknowledge it are mainly the media. It's actually Biden's main defenders are sure on his team, his campaign team. That's understandable. It's some establishment Democrats that are trying to be his vice president that are on TV. But mainly it's the media that jumps up and goes, it's no way. Biden's awesome. No, I don't believe Tara Reade. I think she's Russian, blah, blah, blah. It's amazing. Hey, I thought you guys were, you're supposed to be objective, but you claim to be neutral. I thought you were neutral. No, not remotely. Totally agenda driven and lie about it 24/7.
So there's a second part to this story that I want to get to because Tara Reade has spoken to more members of the media who are actually interested in listening to what she has to say. So recently, Tara Reade was interviewed by Megyn Kelly, and this was her first on-screen interview. Previously, she had been interviewed by Katie Halper on her podcast and by various print outlets. But in this interview with Megyn Kelly, you get to see her and just how her expressions are, how her gestures are, how her body language is. And I think it's really important to like give you a full picture of her accusations. So let's start off with the first clip. In it, she discusses the type of reception she's received from the very party that she has been a voter for a long time now.
Say that in his view, accusers should start off with the presumption that they're telling the truth. Do you think he's afforded you that presumption?
No. I mean, it's been stunning, actually, how some of his surrogates with the blue checks, that are his surrogates, have been saying really horrible things about me and to me on social media. He hasn't himself, but there's a measure of hypocrisy with the campaign saying it's safe. It's not been safe. All my social media has been hacked. All my personal information has been dragged through. Every person that maybe has a gripe against me, an ex-boyfriend or an ex-landlord or whatever it is, has been able to have a platform rather than me. Talking about things that have nothing to do with 1993, like even the whole thing with being called a Russian agent, that in particular, that incites people. People actually, I got a death threat from that because they thought I was being a traitor to America. And I mean, these are serious things. And his campaign is taking this position that they want all women to be able to speak safely. I have not experienced that.
So, Cenk, I just want to provide a few examples of what you'll see on Twitter, for instance, or from actual Democratic lawmakers in responding to Tara Reade's allegations against Joe Biden. First off, you have Joe Biden's longtime political advisor, Ron Klain, and he retweeted the following: "I wish we could get I Believe Biden trending every time this liar speaks. Who's with me?" Also, Senator Dianne Feinstein from California had some thoughts on this because she was asked why there seems to be a double standard when it comes to believing Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, but not believing Tara Reade at all. And here's what she had to say. "Kavanaugh was under the harshest inspection that we give people over a substantial period of time. And I don't know this person at all who has made these allegations. She came out of nowhere. Where has she been all these years? He was vice president." First of all, to argue that Kavanaugh had the harshest inspection is a joke. Everyone knows the FBI investigation into Kavanaugh was less than a week long, and he was pushed through and confirmed as a Supreme Court justice. Also, let's just remember what Dianne Feinstein had to say about the Dr. Ford claims back in 2018. She said, "During every step of this process, we found every single piece of information from Dr. Christine Blasey Ford eminently credible, sincere, and believable. She knew this would have a huge effect on her life, and she was incredibly brave to come forward." Now, I happen to agree with the senator's assessment on Dr. Ford there, but I wish that she would extend that same empathy to Tara Reade. But of course, that's not a politically convenient thing to do.
So let me be clear. Senator Dianne Feinstein is disgusting. And people who are on the mainstream media that watch this, they won't care about anything but the word I just called Senator Feinstein, because she's inside the club. And inside the club, you protect liars like Senator Feinstein. So let me explain why I'm saying that. First of all, look at the obvious hypocrisy. She said, "Where's she been all these years?" You're saying that to someone charging sexual harassment and sexual assault? First of all, that's what the Republicans said to Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. Where's she been all these years? How could you not see the hypocrisy of that? And if you're in the media and you didn't point out that hypocrisy, all right, whatever. You guys are all in the tank. You're all work with the corporate Democrats. It's this, the whole system is disgusting. Now let's get to the most important hypocrisy for Feinstein. And maybe we should say, to be fair to her, she never wanted Christine Blasey Ford's story to go out either. Dr. Ford contacted her because she was her senator, and she buried that letter. You know who exposed that story? The same reporter, Ryan Grimm. Ryan Grimm from The Intercept found out that Feinstein was holding that letter. And only after it became public and Feinstein was embarrassed, she's like, fine, I guess let's air these allegations. She didn't really want to do it based on political calculations, because as always, Feinstein thought surrendering to Republicans was the better course. She was only forced to talk about sexual harassment because she was outed. So she never cared about Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, and she doesn't care about Tara Reid now. All she cares about is her own corrupt career.
So I want to go to two more clips, and this next one has to do with what Tara Reid would like to see. And I want to remind everyone, Tara Reid is a lifelong Democrat. She is not supportive of Donald Trump. She is not going to vote in this upcoming election because clearly there aren't really great options for her here. And so she talks a little bit about what she'd like to see from the Biden camp.
Watching this, what do you want to say to him?
I want to say, you and I were there, Joe Biden. Please step forward and be held accountable. You should not be running on character for the President of the United States.
You want him to withdraw?
I wish he would, but he won't, but I wish he would. That's how I feel emotionally.
I wish that Biden would withdraw because I actually am sincere in wanting Donald Trump elected out of office. I see Biden as an incredibly weak candidate, even without these accusations. But with these accusations, I feel like it's unlikely that Biden would beat Trump anyway. Like, I just do. And I just don't feel comfortable with the way that he and his campaign have handled this case at all, or these accusations. Yeah.
So look, I'm frustrated on this on a couple of counts. I don't have the answer here. I just don't. Part of my job is to come up with analysis and tell you guys what the direction things should go in an ideal world. But I don't know what to do here. So what Tara Reid is saying has a ton of credibility. I want Donald Trump to lose with every fiber of my being. I don't know that there's a single person in the country who detests Donald Trump more than I do. But what are you going to do? Replace him with a random Democrat? They're not going to replace him with Bernie Sanders, who came in second.
No. And let me be clear. I know that. I don't want anyone to think that I'm some like delusional person who's like using this as a strategy to get Bernie Sanders in. No, like literally anyone.
I know, but Anna, and then it puts us in a horrible position because let's say that he was going to do that, which he's definitely not going to do that. But if he did, then they'd be like, okay, we're going to pick someone out of a hat, Buttigieg, Cuomo, etc. And then that would be unbelievably unfer. And then if we said, look, Bernie came in second, then people would say, oh, we knew it. You were biased all along. No. That election is long over. The primary is long over. But what are we supposed to do? I don't know. I don't have the answers here. And I don't know that dropping out is the right thing to do. But I do know ignoring or attacking Tara Reid is not the right answer. Trying to pursue truth, justice, etc. is always a part of the answer here. And so, I agree with you. I'm worried Biden's going to lose to Trump, but you can't make decisions based on that. We already had the primaries. So that can't be the factor in deciding. So, we at least try to tackle it in an honest way, but everyone else just does tribes. I'm in the Biden tribe. I'm in the corporate tribe. I'm in the establishment tribe. And they go to their different tribes and they don't give a damn about the facts. So I don't know. Maybe we're the only people in the country who find this to be a difficult question because everybody else in their own tribes are like, no, me want Trump. Me want Biden. Me want corporate Democrat. And by the way, that includes most of the media. So, look, if you care about honesty and people who care about the news and doing the right thing, you know where to go. If you want robots, you also know where to go.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired Magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
All right, back on the Young Turks. I want to thank our sponsors real quick. Aspiration.com/TYT. Great progressive financial institution. Good place to have your money. And NordVPN.com/TYT, especially these days when everybody's using their computer overtime. You want to make sure that it's protected, and they're good folks to protect it. NordVPN.com/TYT. You'll also get 70% off of a 3-year deal. You'll get a free month. You got to use TYT as the code. All right. And of course, also us, we're doing an audience funding drive, TYT.com/go to keep us sustainable. Now, I want to read a couple of light comments. All of you that wrote in on YouTube Super Chat, I read through all of them. Thank you so much for helping this show and for the great comments. Canada Rocks in our members section says 100% guarantee that if anyone else besides Bernie was Biden's opponent, the establishment would have pressured Biden to drop out as soon as these allegations were made. 100% right. There's no question about it. If he was up against Kamala Harris or Pete Buttigieg instead of Biden at the end, they would have been like, nope, it's over. You got to go. You got to go. It's the other guy. Tina says, I again agree with Anna 100%. Just wanted to read that before I read Glass Half Empty on YouTube Super Chat saying Cenk is such a stud. All right. And then last one here, because it's important. Sorry, it's taking me a while to get to it. Bitch McConnell, that's his handle on Twitter, says, I can't believe those Biden bros have resorted to violently threatening Tara Reade online. According to Whoopi, he needs to apologize publicly every time it happens. Isn't that amazing? All the vitriolic hatred against Tara Reade online, and not one person in the mainstream media has talked about how Biden should apologize for those comments.
Of course not, because they're disingenuous hacks. And look, I want our audience to understand, when I talk about replacing Biden with like literally any Democrat, like the reason why I say that is because I know what the DNC is. We know what the DNC is. They're not going to allow Bernie to be the candidate, even though he's still on the ballot. So look, if you haven't voted in the primaries yet, the primaries are going to come to your state soon. He's on the ballot. So please definitely vote for Bernie. But at the same time, like we all know what establishment Democrats are about. They're not going to allow him to be the nominee. They're just not. And I want Trump out desperately. We can't be forced to like vote for someone who has these credible allegations against him. Like, anyway, go ahead, Cenk, keep going.
No, I'm done. It's always the media, because at least the establishment Democrats have a dog in the fight, right? I get why they're backing their own guy, even though it's deplorable. Yeah, I use that word. But the media, they pretend to be neutral. Oh, we don't care at all. Yeah, my ass, you don't care. Come on, it's not. Oh, Bernie bro. Now Biden's people are vicious to Tara Reade. Not one story
right?
about it.
Of
Giant,
course,
unbelievable lying hypocrites. There's only one real news network in the country. It's TYT. I'm not kidding. All those guys, they're all hacks. There's a reason why you need TYT.com/go. You can call it self-interest. I don't care what you call it. It's reality. All right, Anna, let's keep going.
All right. Attorney General William Barr is defending his decision to drop the case against Michael Flynn, who in December of 2017 did plead guilty to a felony count of willfully and knowingly making false and fictitious and fraudulent statements to the FBI. Now, Flynn pleaded guilty in December of 2017 to lying to the FBI about his contacts with former Russian ambassador to the U.S., Sergei Kislyak, in the wake of the 2016 presidential election. The case against Flynn stemmed from a special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian meddling in the election. Now, in December of 2016, Obama had imposed sanctions against Russia in retaliation for meddling in the election. Soon after the sanctions were announced, the Washington Post reported that Flynn called Kislyak several times in December. At that point, Flynn initially denied that he had discussed sanctions in his conversation with Kislyak, but later in his guilty plea, Flynn admitted that he had in fact spoken with Kislyak about the sanctions and had asked Russia, quote, not escalate the situation and only respond to the U.S. sanctions in a reciprocal manner. So I want to come back to that in just a second. But first, let's go to the first video where William Barr kind of talks about his reasoning for dropping this case and how he doesn't really regret it. Take a look.
I feel good about the decision because that's what we're here to do. We're here to do what's right.
Not what's easy.
Right.
Was it an easy decision?
It was an easy decision, yes. I think easy because once I saw all the facts and some of the tactics used by the FBI in this instance, and also the legal problems with the case, it was an easy decision.
So I'm not surprised that this is what William Barr is saying, but I do want to just talk about like the context in which this conversation took place. So Obama implements these sanctions. Kislyak talks to the Russian ambassador to the U.S., Kislyak, and urges him like, hey, don't lose it over these sanctions. Is that a bad thing? Like, I think what they talked about matters. Yes, he lied to the FBI. There's no question about that. He pleaded guilty to it. He clearly had this communication with Kislyak. But why did he lie to the FBI? Why didn't he just say, hey, this is what we discussed. This is what happens when you have diplomatic conversations?
Yeah. No, Anna, that's the number one question that Bill Barr should have been asking. You nailed it. Because he says in the rest of the interview that he doesn't deny that Flynn lied. He can't deny it because Flynn has admitted twice in open court that he lied. So why is he not prosecuting him for lying to the FBI, which he would prosecute you for, guaranteed? He says, well, because there's a second part of the case, which is that they shouldn't have been doing the investigation in the first place against Flynn and my beloved Donald Trump. Now, that's a thing now? I didn't like that they were investigating my boss, so I'm just going to cancel the thing that he already admitted to. So then did it never occur to you, even if you were honest about that, did it never occur to you, if there was nothing to investigate, why did he bother lying? Obviously, he wanted to cover it up. Maybe you should dig deeper on that instead of covering up the whole thing and going, oh, no, we should have never investigated the thing that he risked his career over to lie to the FBI. Preposterous. So everything William Barr said there was Orwellian. We got more on that. But by the way, the interviewer here, Catherine Herridge, did a terrible job, which I want to talk about in a second.
Yes, exactly. So he actually was asked about the guilty plea, and his answer was fascinating, especially because you don't hear these types of answers when it comes to guilty pleas that were given with coercion, right? They were coerced. Like, we've done so many stories of like criminal cases where usually men of color are coerced into pleading guilty. In this case, though, just pay close attention to the reasoning that Barr gives for why Flynn pleaded guilty.
Cannot be established here. They did not have a basis for a counterintelligence investigation against Flynn at that stage.
Does the fact remain that he lied?
Well, people sometimes plead to things that turn out not to be crimes.
Oh, that's interesting. I usually don't hear right-wingers make that point, because there certainly have been guilty pleas in the past when people are coerced to give those pleas, but that's not the case here. I mean, Michael Flynn was not coerced into pleading guilty. He took a plea deal, that's for sure.
At one point, Barr used the phrase perjury trap. You do hear that in court a decent amount, almost always from the defense lawyer, not from the prosecutor. Barr is the prosecutor here, and he's like, poor Flynn, he had to lie to us. He had to. I mean, why were we even investigating him? He's a part of the beloved Trump administration who all did a giant cover-up of Russia and never wanted to talk about it. But, the FBI then goes in, and by the way, in another part of the interview, he admits, yes, every prosecutor, in essence, says either you're going to tell me the truth or I'm going to catch you lying. But he then turns around and calls it a perjury trap because he wants to pervert justice here for his own political cause. I can't help it. I got to say it now. Catherine Herridge, instead of challenging him on any of those assertions, asks absurd questions like, it sounds to me like one of your objectives is to never allow the Justice Department to be used as a political weapon. That's what you're saying happened here, right? He's using it as a political weapon right there. And you are serving up a softball saying, now you care so much that this is never used as a political weapon, right? I mean, it's just sickening what our mainstream media does. And then Christopher Wray, the current FBI director, throws him under the bus. Does Director Wray have what it takes to make changes at the FBI? In other words, if you're watching the interview, here's the reporter saying, oh my God, you're not politicizing this. Your enemies are politicizing. And the current FBI director, which Trump is questioning, I mean, it looks like he doesn't want to make changes. He looks guilty, doesn't he? I mean, the framing on these questions are abysmal.
Yes. One final video. It's short, but it's important to give you a sense of his frame of mind here.
When history looks back on this decision, how do you think it will be written?
Well, history's written by the winner, so it largely depends on who's writing the history.
That's an incredible insight into his mind and how he operates. Cenk, we have about 15 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's basically him saying, hey, if we win, we get to rewrite all this. And then truth will be on its head, and so will justice. Ha ha. And Harris is like, oh, thank you, sir. Absolutely, sir. I got a scoop. I got a scoop. Congratulations on the access you received. Horrible all around. We have so much more in the postgame. We have got to do Trump's reaction to this, and we will in the postgame. TYT.com/join to get so much more content by becoming a member. We'll see you guys there.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of the Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.